What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This time we're at the penultimate round of the season at the Portuguese Grand Prix. It's just this and Brazil remaining to try and close out P5 in the Constructors' Championship in our battle with Alpine. Currently we are level on points going into this round after I suffered a DNF in the Mexican Grand Prix last time out, and Alpine were... I don't want to say unfortunate, but we were fortunate at least that Alpine didn't get as good a result as it looked like they were on for when I retired from the race. They were running like 3rd or 4th and like 6th, and they finished like 6th and 10th. So yeah, we were quite lucky. We didn't pick up any points there because Fittipaldi, our teammate, was also out of the points. It was a control electronics failure that did it. And yeah, we suffered quite heavily as a result of that, and now we're level on points with them. We have an issue here involving Fittipaldi's mindset. We could either talk to him or ignore it. And if we talk to him, it improved some of his stats. So I figured it was better to do that. We don't need the resource points right now. As you can see, we have 8,000 in reserve. We're just waiting to get some facility upgrades before we can go nuts on spending those. And that is going to come quite soon. We have invested in a facility upgrade for the chassis, which will hopefully get us to Spec 3, and then once we get there, we should be able to buy all of the upgrades in one go. Right now, our closest rivals are Alpine, not Alpine, Alfa Romeo, but in terms of where we've been driving on track, I'd say Mercedes and Alpine are sort of closer to where we've been performing. Even Fittipaldi's been challenging the Mercedes and the Alpines from time to time. I think he was unfortunate in Japan not to finish ahead of them. So yeah, I'd say they were sort of our closest rivals. We seem to be consistently faster than Alfa Romeo from what I've experienced. But you know, we'll see what happens regarding that as we progress forward through the race weekend, whether we can contend with them or not. We need a good result in these next few races. Ideally, we need to outscore Alpine at one of these races. Well, I say ideally, we do. If we tie on points with them, we'll finish ahead of them no matter what happens now, because I've had 4 victories this season, which means there's no way. Alpine have only had 1, and they can't get 3 more by the end of the season. They have to finish ahead of us on points, which means all we can do, or the minimum that we have to do, is tie with them on points, which is very, very difficult when we're only having 1 car, myself, consistently finishing the points, and Fittipaldi is sort of finishing just on the fringes of the points every single time. Practice was a good sign. We finished P3 when a lot of cars did soft compound running. We were faster than Alonso by 4 tenths. Ocon was on the medium tyres, but we were over a second faster than him as well. Our teammate was nowhere to be seen here, but hopefully he will be at least a little bit faster come qualifying. He's only got a couple races with us left. I don't think we're going to have the money to re-sign his contract now because we invested in that chassis upgrade, but developing the car is still my number 1 focus right now. When my teammate is not finishing where I need him to be consistently, and he's asking for $6 million from us, I would rather go and get another young driver. Right now, it's looking like my most likely options are going to be Porsche, Dragovic, or maybe trying to re-sign Piastri. It really just depends on how much money we have and how much money I feel like spending. You know, we're going to hopefully get a lot. We've met our sponsor bonus regardless of what happens, and yeah, now we're just going to be looking down the barrel of P5 in this championship to get as much as we can in terms of constructors prize money. We set a 1:17.2 to begin, and that is as the fastest lap when it is set, but I'm sure by the end of the session some other cars will have improved, and indeed they do. We end up P7, but it's absolutely fine. We only did 1 run. I wasn't expecting to be fastest. Fittipaldi was only 3 tenths off in P12. If he can get P12 in Q2, that would be fantastic. That would be the sort of position I would want him to be aiming for every weekend. If he's being outperformed by some of the weaker teams around him, that's it's not great. So we'll see what he's capable of doing come Q2. Here we are now on our first flying lap. We're on a used set of soft compound tyres, as we often do on our first flying laps of Q2 and Q3, and we set a 1:17.3, so I'm pretty confident we can get into the 1:16s on a fresh set of softs based on that kind of performance. Alonso has also been pretty fast, and quite quickly Sainz usurps us at the top of the table. Initially I looked like I might be doing another run, but then I go back into the pits and come back out. We improved by almost 7 tenths on our second flying lap on a fresh set of softs. It's good enough for a 1:16.6, and that puts us P2. See, if we can get P2 in Q3, that would be an absolutely incredible result for us, because it would mean that we'd be able to challenge at the front of the field, hopefully ahead of the Alpines. Meanwhile, Fittipaldi, very far off the pace. I'm guessing he couldn't hook up a good lap or something. 118.9, nowhere near his contenders, and really P16 not good enough at this stage of the season. I'd want him to be performing at a higher level than that. But yeah, uncharacteristically poor performance from him. As Leclerc sets a 116.2, that is going to be very hard to beat. We crossed the line on a U set, and we set a 117.2. So we need to find 9 tenths on our final lap if we want to grab pole position here, at least. And Leclerc could well improve on his second flying lap as well. So yeah, we're going to need to really find everything we can on this this final flying lap. We come into the final sector of my final flying lap on a fresh set of softs now, and I'd already made a couple mistakes over the course of this lap, only minor things that caused me to lose maybe a second or so. But yeah, nonetheless, we still improved by a decent chunk. We're going to be about 7 tenths up again as we come to the line, and this should be good enough in the end for a 116.5, which will put us in P3. I do have to wonder a little bit, if I hadn't made some of those mistakes, would this have been good enough for P2 or even for pole? But P3 is by no means a poor result. Perez gets P2 in the end, and I think we probably could have been ahead of him. We were very lucky to be ahead of Alonso there. It was very close between us and him. And yeah, all I can hope is that we can maybe we can jump one of the cars in front of us to build a little bit of a buffer between ourselves and Alonso. If I can outscore him by sort of 2 positions and Ocon's a bit further down the order, then I should be okay in terms of outscoring them in this race. But it's really gonna depend on what the Alpines do, whether there's any penalties, anything like that. There's a lot of factors to consider. One of the biggest things we've got to worry about here is winning this rivalry with Hamilton as well, which I'm quite keen to do because we've lost quite a lot of them, and I'd like to end the year on a high, perhaps by winning a rivalry and maybe bumping up the difficulty by a point to what's the word I'm looking for? Confirm, I guess. That's not really the word I was thinking of, but it's not coming to mind at the moment. So yeah, decent qualifying from us. Not great from Enzo, but it's okay. If he can maybe work his way through the field, maybe get into sort of P10 or something like that, then could still be all right. And I mean, yeah, that's pretty much everything that we have to think about in terms of the race. There's no rain or anything like that. Should stay dry. Should be a pretty straightforward strategy. And let's get into it.
Circus has made its way to the southern coast of Portugal this week and is preparing for what I think will be a terrific race here in Portimao. So Portimao features 15 turns over the course of its 2.9-mile length. 9 are right-handers, 6 are to the left. This is a track with a lot of uphill action, which only accentuates the importance of getting those exits right, especially at turn 4, where a good line can present opportunities to pass on the way into turn 5. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and Robinson completes the front row. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, Max Verstappen and Ocon, Russell, Norris, Hamilton and Sergio Perez. They've taken a grid penalty. Albon, Joe, Enzo Fittipaldi and Gasly, Magnussen, Schwartzman, Lance Stroll and Carlos Sainz, Tsunoda, Latifi, Lundgaard and Mick Schumacher. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Natalie Pinkham joins me once again in the commentary box. It's fantastic to have you with us today. I'm curious though, how do you think the drivers stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It'll keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Well, it seems that Mark is consistently not having much to say lately when it comes to strategies and things like that. We are going to be starting on the medium compound tires, and hopefully we'll be on a decent strategy compared to those around us. However, it seems that all the cars around us are starting on soft compound tires again, so this is going to be a battle if we want to hold on to this P2. I need to finish at least ahead of Alonso here. I tried to check to see if Leclerc was maybe doing a two-stop, but they didn't really give me any information on that. I was kind of hoping, but I somehow doubt that it is going to be a two-stop. These guys have got ultimate tyre wear upgrades, of course, which makes them slightly more superior when it comes to holding on to things like tyre life and that kind of thing. Perez picked up a penalty, which is why we're starting in P2, and I think he's starting on medium compound tyres as well, back in, I think that's P8 maybe, or maybe even P10. So yeah, we're going to have a bit of a battle on our hands here as the lights come on, and the lights go out. And we get a pretty decent start considering we're on the medium compound tyres. It looks like we might have been able to challenge Leclerc into turn 1 for a second there, but then, as always, he pulls away through the second phase of the start. We keep ahead of Alonso, and actually he loses position to Ricciardo, which is fantastic for us because it bumps Alonso down from scoring from 15 points to 12 points, as we are going to try and do everything in our power to hold on to this P2 and grab 18 points, maybe even challenge Leclerc for the win if we can find a place that we're faster than him. But with him on the softs and me on the mediums, is looking much more likely that he is gonna pull away, and we are just gonna have to settle for this P2. There was a yellow flag behind us there. I'm not sure what that was for. Mick Schumacher is out. I'm assuming that wasn't a mechanical failure. It seems a tad early for that, so maybe he had a crash or something like that, and we'll see what happened with him in a second as we get challenged by Ricciardo into that sharp right-hander as we come down this roller coaster section, as Lando Norris once described it. But we managed to hold on right now to P2. Like I said, we're going to have a real challenge on our hands. This is not going to be an easy defense. If anyone can do it, I can do it, because I can be a bit sort of rude when it comes to my defense. But let's have a look at what happened with Mick Schumacher now. I think someone's front wing came off there, but it doesn't look like it was his. But he is very far behind the other cars around him. There's an Alfa Romeo directly ahead of him, and he looks like for a second he might be diving up the inside there, and then thinks better of it, tries to tuck in behind, but he's already sort of committed to the braking point for diving up the inside, and so he plows straight into the back of who I assume is Lundgaard, and as a result, he smashes his front wing and has to retire from the race. We check on how our teammate is currently doing, and he's doing okay in 11th right now. So if someone else retires from this Grand Prix, or falls behind on strategy or something like that, we could be looking at Fittipaldi potentially scoring points again. There's a new safety car as we run over the track and get a track limits warning, which I think is kind of absurd given that the safety car had already been deployed by that point. But anyway, I'm not really sure what the safety car was for. No one retired or anything like that. And I didn't see anyone come into the pits or anything like that. Although the Red Bulls are nowhere to be seen. They're all the way at the back now, so I'm not sure if it was maybe them who pitted. Maybe they had a collision with some of the cars around them or something like that. That promotes Fittipaldi up into P9, I believe, as we're now pressuring Leclerc as we come to the safety car restart. We're going to jump on the throttle and the battery as soon as he starts accelerating. And now we're going to be challenging him all the way on the run down to turn 1. We're going to dive up the inside, and we squeeze him out and take the lead of the Portuguese Grand Prix here at Portimao. And this could be absolutely huge for our championship chances. Alonso is up in P3 at the moment. He'll be scoring 15 points. I think the Alpines are still outscoring us at the moment, because I think that is Ocon down in P6, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, what I do know is that we are leading the race on medium compound tyres when everyone around us is on softs. Maybe their tyres are going off a little bit, and that's causing us to get the pace that we have right now. I think Leclerc is probably going to attack us back as we run up the hill and over the hill here, and then go back down the hill. Yeah, you can see that he is trying to drag past us. But this is really the point where I said, fuck it, I'm him, and dived straight back up the inside. I was like, I'm not letting him get away like that. I need this race win if we want P5 in the Constructors' Championship. I will put my entire race on the line for this position in the Constructors' Championship. This is how much this team means to me. Jaguar Racing, 3 seasons with this team now, and we have done an incredible job so far. We're going to keep progressing up the order as the seasons tick on, and I am not going to let us stagnate in P6 for even 1 season. So yeah, as we move into lap 10, we once again being pressured up the inside by Charles Leclerc. I am desperate to hold on to this position, but yeah, we are not going to have an easy task. We've got a world champion, a 2-time world champion directly behind us, and then the current world champion who claimed the title 2 races ago just behind him as well. And these are the pedigree we're going to have to defend from. Leclerc comes into the pits at the end of lap 11, and that means that the pressure will at least be alleviated for a little bit, although Norris might close us down over this lap. I think he'll be coming into the pits at the end of lap 12, so yeah, we are probably not going to be pressured too much until our own pit window, which is now on lap 15, and you see here we are going to come in the pits. That wasn't me taking a deliberately wide line there. That was genuinely the grip we had in the tyres at this point. I really wore them out. I was pushing like crazy, as I'm sure you can imagine. And yeah, that meant that we ended up, you know, pitting at probably the right time, I'd say. We didn't have much more life to fight on those tyres. We're going to go on a set of hards to the end. Crofty's got nothing to say, so I had to fill the air here. And yeah, it's a pretty good stop in the end, 2.7 seconds. Perez goes through, but I'm guessing he's got to stop again. I don't remember when I think he might have pitted on lap 5 when that safety car was called, actually, or lap 4 or something like that. But you know, we'll see what's going on with him in good time. The tyres are still getting up to temperature a little bit. Leclerc might have had some kind of pit stop issue or something like that, because he's 5 seconds down now, and it looks like it's Norris who's going to be our real challenge here. Trying to see what's going on with Perez's tyres, how long he's been on them and that kind of thing, but they didn't tell me on this occasion. So yeah, I'm not really sure what's happening with him. Ocon is the last of the medium compound runners to come into the pits there on lap 16, and we'll see where he shakes out as a result of that. I think he might have lost a few positions here. I'm looking on the mini-map. It's Ricciardo leading an Aston Martin, actually. They might not have stopped yet, and then I think Sainz was behind them. We now come on to lap 18 into 19, and we're once again checking on the status of Perez. So yeah, they pitted on lap 4 or 5, but there was no indication that he was going to pit again. And I think this was probably about the time in the race that I realised Perez, when he pitted on lap 4 or 5, was always planning to go to the end on these hard tyres. And in doing so, when I said I took the lead of the Grand Prix when I overtook Charles Leclerc on the safety car restart, that, whilst it was technically true on the road, I was not in the net lead of the race at that point, and I was never, ever leading this race. It was always Sergio Perez from the moment that he pitted onto those hard tyres, somehow smashing his front wing on a car in front, triggering a safety car, and then boxing for hard tyres to the end was the optimal strategy here, which is an absolutely insane thing to say, but it's the truth. You know, Sergio Perez would not have won this race if it weren't for that. We have been under a little bit of pressure from Norris so far, but it's not quite been as dramatic as I expected it might have been. Leclerc has closed him up at this point, but we're just going to keep doing what we can with the battery to defend. You see, we've got battery in spades at the moment. We're not having to burn too much to keep him behind. As we look at the gap now to Perez, it's 7.7 seconds. It's not coming down that much at all. You know, it's sort of maintaining steady between 7 and 8 seconds, which means I think we're not going to catch him, honestly. Even though he's on significantly older tyres, unless his tyres fall off the cliff at the end of the race, which, because they're hard tyres, typically hards can do an entire 50% Grand Prix. I think this is just it, you know. I think P2 is what we're going to have to settle for here. When I made a move on Leclerc, I thought I was making a move for the lead, but really I was making a move for P2, which, you know, is pretty huge in itself, especially considering I think Alonso is all the way down in P7 now, and Ocon might be like P9 or P10 or something like that. We are going to outscore Alpine at this Grand Prix as long as we can hold on to P2. and that could have major ramifications for the Constructors' Championship, but it would have had even more major ramifications had we been able to win the Grand Prix. I saw Alonso there in P7 briefly on the minimap, so yeah, that's where he currently resides. And now as we move on to lap 28, you see I am trying to break out of the DRS range of Lando Norris and try and push as hard as I can to see if there's any chance of me catching Sergio Perez in front. I don't think there is going to be. He just seems a tiny bit too far up the road. But as I said earlier in the race, I am not going to take this lying down. I'm going to do everything I can to win this Grand Prix for the team, to win the to get P5 in the Constructors' Championship for the team, because the more money we get, the more likely it will be that we can contend for P1 in the Constructors' Championship as early as next season. I don't think we're going to have a strong enough teammate to do it, but I'm going to target improvement again, whether it be P4 or P3 or something like that. We are going to be aiming for a top spot. I want to be a front-running car next season, and I think if we can get P5 in this championship, we will have the money to do it. I pushed a bit, but at the end of the day, I just couldn't make it work. Norris ended up closing me back up, and I have ended up closing up to some backmarker cars, such as the nature of the pace of our car now. We're actually fast enough to lap cars, which feels incredible. What's even more incredible is that 2 of these cars are Alfa Romeos, which are supposedly the car ahead of us in the performance index. So I'm not quite sure about that one, as I think Leclerc got held up slightly by Albon there, lost a bit of touch to Lando Norris. But that's okay, because you know, we're fast approaching the end of the Grand Prix at this point, and I think if we can just hold off Norris for one more lap, we will be able to cross the line to finish P2. I can't explain the emotions I was feeling in this race, which went from oh my god we're going to win it to the shock of oh my god we're never going to win it, as Kevin Magnussen retires on the I think he was actually on lap 32, very close to lap 33. Yeah, I just think it was a mechanical failure or something like that, and yeah, he was unfortunate not to just make it to the line. He might even have been lapped, I'm not sure, and yeah, that spells the end of Magnussen's Grand Prix, and also the end of our Grand Prix as we cross the line to take P2. Can't be too disappointed with that. You know, I set out to sort of finish on the podium, outscore Alpine, and we've done all of those things, and that will stand us in good stead.
For the Portuguese Grand Prix, and what a sensational victory they've managed to pull off here. So Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
Well, when you overtake that many people, I certainly hope you'd win the race. Their car was really effective in the slipstream today, and the team will be pleased that they didn't cook the engine, given how long they were spending in the hot air behind other cars. They had a lot of confidence to push their tyres hard, especially going into the corners, which allowed for some late braking and some exciting passes.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently, and it's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be so proud of the victory they've secured here.
So yeah, Sergio Perez ends up taking the W here. I think he might have won another race this season, but it's been such a long season I actually can't remember at this point, and I'm just glad that it's winding down and we can start looking forward to next season now. As yeah, we sprayed the champagne, we finished P2, and it was Lando Norris, the world champion, that crossed the line in P3, and that yeah, that is going to spell the end of the Portuguese Grand Prix here.
So then, Natalie Pinkham, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Carlos Sainz would be my first choice for this race. He had excellent race stamina, giving him the opportunity to charge through the ranks.
Let's move on to the constructors. McLaren continue to increase their gap at the top. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Alpine finished 7th and 9th in the end, and Enzo Fittipaldi actually managed to wrangle his way into P10 somehow, scoring his second Formula One point of the season, and that meant that we did just enough to get 11 points ahead of Alpine in this championship, which means yeah, we are going to have a bit of a task on our hands in Brazil to hold on to that lead. You know, if they have a good result, we definitely could still fall behind them. It means this Constructors' Championship fight is going to go down to the wire. So I can't stress enough, if you're watching this, watch the next video. Watch the next video, because that is going to be the decider on whether we finish in P5 or P6 in this Constructors' Championship. And that is the difference between about $2 million, I think. So it is not an insignificant amount of money whatsoever. Last race is going to be Brazil. We've got no crap Abu Dhabi Grand Prix to end the season this time around. And yeah, I am very, very excited for what the future holds for this team. Now that we look like we are in the box seat to get P5 in the championship. Obviously, if I get a DNF, that could be catastrophic, as what happened in Mexico to put us in this position in the first place. We were sitting pretty, well, I was going to say pretty in this championship, but I don't think that's a very good sentence. So I'll say we were looking quite good in this championship before that DNF in Mexico came and ruined everything for us a little bit, and meant that I had to bang in a performance like this. Think I'm going to win the race, only to find out I'm not. This was a real bait and switch from Red Bull on this occasion. They've known to be pretty hot on their strategies in the past, but deliberately damaging your car to win the race, I don't know about that one, man. That doesn't seem like it's in the spirit of Formula One. But I'm sure they'll be able to argue some rule that's like any damage does not mean all damage or something like that. You know, well done to Sergio Perez for winning that Grand Prix. I'm not going to be salty about it. I've already had 4 wins this season. That's more than most drivers. The lion's share of the wins have been distributed between Leclerc and Norris, I think, who've probably won about 6 Grand Prix each. And yeah, we were slightly further behind. It's just unfortunate that we couldn't be more of a contender in the podium places this season. Otherwise, we could have been looking at a much stronger performance, I think. The championship was definitely a lot more dominated by the top few teams, as evidenced by the fact that we've outscored ourselves from last season by about 100 points. And yet we're still only in a constructors fight for P5. And it's not like Fittipaldi scored more points last season or anything like that, or Piastri in the second half of the season. They only scored 8 points over the course of the whole season. So yeah, just a lot more skewed results to the top few teams, and almost no points being scored by anyone lower down in the Constructors' Championship than us and Alpine. We do get the full gambit of Constructors bonuses, or sponsor bonuses I should say. We get 70 grand bonus for keeping the car clean, and we're going to have 3 million at the end of this race, which means that we may have enough to re-sign Fittipaldi, but it doesn't mean I'm going to do it necessarily. You'll have to wait and see on that one. But that is going to be it for this video. If you liked, make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.